The Charity Gala is a Palm Beach tradition that can be traced back to one woman, Marjorie Meriwether Post. In 1921, Post organized the first charity ball to build the Good Samaritan Hospital in West Palm Beach and started a tradition that has made Palm Beach the most charitable town in the world.
We are a small percentage of people. We're only 9,200 people. But when you raise $40 million between the 9,200 people, that's a lot per capita.
What substitutes for doing nothing in Palm Beach is the charity balls. That's sort of their industry.
It's the best way to rise socially. This is the way you announce yourself and become part of the community. And if you do it right, you're accepted in that elite circle. If you don't, bye-bye.
What Post started as a casual get-together has grown into a way of life in Palm Beach, a way of life so important that some have delayed death to avoid missing the season.
John L. Lahainer, who married a very wealthy Italian real estate person and then came to the U.S. with him and was worth some $300 million, took care of him until he died. And unfortunately, he died at a very inopportune time. It was the middle of the season, and she wanted to go to all her charity balls, and she wanted to go to the party on Ivana Trump's yacht and go to Donald's parties. And so she had him embalmed and stored for 40 days at the local funeral home. And after the 40 days, after the season, she finally held the funeral, which was in Italy. And she thought that that was the way to do it.
And so I think they postponed the burial of the husband for several days so that she could attend the ball and do her social duty. And to many in Palm Beach, that duty is extremely important.
She later married someone else, and she went to my book party, and she said, if the same thing happens to him, I'll do the same thing with him.
Recently there was a study done, and it showed that charities are the fourth largest industry in the state of Florida. And they employ a large number of people. And they're ahead of the real estate market, and they're ahead of a lot of the other industries that we would think that are very large here in Florida.
The top of the society is the old guard, which is blue bloods, no Jews allowed. They belong to the Beach Club or Everglades Club, which do not admit Jews. And then there's a society around that that tends to be more new wealth.
An old guard person just has a certain presence that you can detect, as opposed to a wannabe, a PP. Again, I use that word pretender and player. It's more a matter almost of presence and chemistry. Old guarders are pretty clannish, naturally. They hang with their own people, as they should. A new person feels that they have to be more than they are when they're in Palm Beach. And they think, therefore, that the old guard and all the Palm Beach people will like them better, which is an absolute contradiction. And as I say, this whole thing is convoluted now, where you're getting so many new people coming in, trying to be the old guard. And they'll never be the old guard, because you got to be born the old guard,
The old money may look snobbishly toward the new money, but believe me, they'd love to have their money. They're not going to say that, but of course they would like to have that. And that's what's devastating to them, that their houses sometimes literally are in the shadows of these great new enormous mansions.
Piercing the social strata of the old guard can be as simple as throwing the most elaborate and outrageous event. And in the history of Palm Beach charity balls, no one has had more success than event planner Bruce Sutka.
I've been doing this probably maybe around 34 years. I was one of the original event people in this business before it became a business.
You see racy things. In the case of some charity balls, there might be women who are topless, for example.
So I certainly don't want to take credit for changing the face of fundraising Palm Beach, but we did kind of diverge from the norm, and people started really kind of liking that type of thing rather than the boring old chicken dinner.
And then there are, you know, a lot of sex going on in general. There's orgies in pools.
We did do a charity event a couple years ago, and we had a girl on a trapeze who we call 40 tons for various reasons.
There was a certain amount of drugs, but more sex.
She had rather big bosoms, and as she was on the rope there, her costume started slipping a little bit.
All to be expected in an atmosphere like that.
But the New Year's Eve parties were always racing over the top.
One of the most legendary Sitka events was the 1973 New Year's Eve Gala for the Young Friends of the American Red Cross. It was a Roman theme, and to no one's surprise, this charity fundraiser turned into a full-scale bacchanal.
So I think that's one of the things I like the most, making people be naughty sometimes.
You know, the charity balls don't raise a great deal of money, given certainly in terms of what is spent on them. And in terms of taxes, you forget that so many things are given free, and the person giving them is taking the write-off.
The expenses, for example, we were talking about what they spend the money on. Dinner, $21,170.
You know, you've got to bring in a generator, you've got to have a tent, you've got to have a floor in the tent, you've got to spray for bugs.
The hotels, which are the primary sites, and I say to you, the Breakers, the Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton, are now forced to charge so much per head to feed you and to drink you on a given night that a lot of the charities can't afford it.
Their lighting, their sound, their staging.
So they had two orchestras actually, so that was one orchestra, the other orchestra was $13,500.
You've got to bring in, you know, all of your lighting and your auxiliary services, tents for caterers. Caterers come in, they have to rent all the equipment, tables, chairs.
The venue was another $10,500 where they held it.
And then you pay for security on top of that and other little things.
Entertainment is always a big option. Tonight we have Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
The facilities on the island are just, you know, too costly. It's that simple.
I would probably say that the average budget for an event ranges between 25, 30, and it can go up to 500,000, 600,000 bucks.
I say to my clients when they ask me about events is, let's be clear on what you're doing. If your goal is to raise a lot of money, an event is a very inefficient way to do it.
For a new charity, it's a gamble. If they get lucky and throw an outrageous event, they might make money. So many charities from around the world were taking a run at the Palm Beach market. The town passed a very unique law.
We have so many organizations and philanthropic groups coming to Palm Beach now that it's a little hard to you know, keep track of what's going on.
Every year the Palm Beach paper lists the charities from the year before, what it was, how much they took in and how much they spent, and it's appalling. Sometimes they'll take in $200,000 and it costs $150,000 to do the party. I mean, that's not good.